Thanks everyone for joining. I just want to make sure really quick if everyone can see my screen, if you could just give me a thumbs up emoji or thumbs up. Kyle, can you see the PowerPoint? No, you can't. Okay, hang on. Let me try that again.
Yeah, I do not see the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Okay.
How about now?
Now I can see the PowerPoint. Yep.
Perfect.
That's
All
nice
right.
and clear. Here we go.
Awesome. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. We're going to get started. Welcome to the 2025 Form 700 filer information session. This is geared towards what we call ethics filers, which is essentially city officers, commissioners, board members, uh, elected officials, department heads, are pretty much that's the list. My name's Kevin Kincaid. I am an engagement and compliance officer at the San Francisco Ethics Commission, and I'm joined by Kyle Hazel, who is a client support specialist. And yes, we will walk through these slides with you in this presentation. And we are going to, just before we begin, I want to start with some housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded, and the recording will be available at sfethics.org. Attendee microphones are automatically muted during the presentation, so there are no ad hoc questions while the presentation is going on. And I just want to avoid all confusion. This information session is not mandatory, and it's also not the annual ethics training or the annual sunshine training. Both of those trainings are done within NetFile and recorded within the NetFile system. So by joining this session, you won't get any credit anywhere for either of those trainings. You still do need to do the annual ethics and also the annual sunshine training as well. So yeah, I just want to make that clear that this is optional. This is an optional session. During the Q&A segment, we will be reading and responding to questions that were submitted by the filers before the session started. We don't have a lot of attendees in this session, but due to the nature of Form 700's questions being specific, we just won't take any live questions. But any questions that you do have after it, please just open up a ticket within our support portal, and we will be glad to assist. You're essentially going to get one-on-one help if you open up a ticket during the support portal. So you don't really need to ask questions during the Q&A session that are like live questions. We did get a few questions beforehand, so we will be going through the question and answer for those. Kyle is going to drop a link to the support portal in the chat as well for reference. And yeah, we by opening a ticket, you will get the undivided attention by at least one ethics support employee. All right, let's move on. Just going to talk about the agenda here. We'll do a quick overview of the Form 700. Some people are new to this, so it's really a little bit of background of it. We'll talk about the annual ethics training and the Sunshine Ordinance training. We will talk how to file your Form 700 and take the annual ethics and Sunshine Ordinance trainings. During this session, I will actually do a demo in our test environment just to show everyone how to log into NetFile, where to click to get all of these completed. We will talk about what's reported on the Form 700 by providing examples basically for every single schedule. Just not like the examples that we provide are not all examples, but we will provide some examples of what to disclose and what not to disclose. And then we'll end up with just a resources and filer support slide, and then we'll do the question and answer session where the question and answers will be put into the chat. All right. Okay, so the Statement of Economic Interest, which is also known as the Form 700, per the Political Reform Act, state and local agencies must adopt a conflict of interest code that identifies all officials and employees within the agency who make government decisions based on the positions that they hold. Individuals who are designated in the conflict of interest code and identified as making or participating in making government decisions must disclose their financial interests as specified by their position's disclosure category. These disclosures are made in a form called the Statement of Economic Interest. This is why we're here, also known as the Form 700. Annual statements of economic interest are required to be filed by public officials and designated employees throughout California. This is essentially the topic of today's session. So you have to do one of these annually, and also the Form 700 must be filed within 30 days of assuming office and within 30 days of leaving office. And this form provides transparency and ensures accountability in a couple of different ways. One of the ways is it provides necessary information to the public about an official's personal financial interests to ensure that officials are making decisions in the best interest of the public and not enhancing their personal finances. Another way is it serves as a reminder to the public official of potential conflicts of interest so that the official can abstain from making or participating in making government decisions that are deemed a conflict of interest. All right, moving on. So who files the Form 700? As I previously mentioned a couple slides ago, this session is geared towards the first bullet point on this list, which is elected officials, department heads, board members, and commissioners, also known as ethics filers. So that group definitely files Form 700s, but also designated employees and consultants file Form 700 as well. So every department has, in the conflict of interest code, every department has designated positions that they decide are required to file a Form 700. They make the decisions for those to be added every 2 years through what's called a biennial code review. The code review goes through the city attorney's office, and then also the board of supervisors has to approve any updates to the conflict of interest code. The ethics commission does not decide that certain positions on certain departments are filers. It is the department level. The ethics commission does consult with departments, city attorney, whoever needs our expertise or asks us to consult with them. We do that, but we do not make up these positions. Everyone files through electronically through a system called NetFile. And that's it for this slide, actually. We'll move on to the next slide and talk about a little bit about the annual Ethics and Sunshine Ordinance trainings. Brand new this year to ethics filers, everyone on this call, is in years past, the Ethics and Sunshine training were kind of combined into one training video, but this year they're actually split off into 2 separate videos. So you will see an extra video within your NetFile account, an extra training. It's not like it's longer or anything. It's actually the same amount of time. They were just split apart from each other. So we have an ethics training and we have a sunshine training rather than them mashed together into one. So the deadline to complete the annual Ethics and Sunshine Ordinance trainings is the same as when your Form 700 is due. And this year it is April 1st, 2025. For each video, each training, I should say, it takes about 1.5 hours to complete. Sunshine's a little less. So 2.5 to 3 hours to complete both of them. Each of them consists of a video, a short quiz, and a declaration form to sign. Please make sure you do all of these, or else you will not get credit for each training. Um, there's been instances that still happen to this day where someone completes the video and then they just kind of close it out and they don't do the quiz or don't do the declaration form. And then when they get reminders to do that, they come to us and say, why am I getting a reminder? I did this. While it is true, you may have completed the video, you do have to do the quiz and sign the declaration form. So please make sure you complete all of these. All right, that's it for this one. So we move on. Form 700 and annual ethics training, filing requirements, and due dates. For this slide, we're just going to talk about due dates. This year, the annual ethics training, as I mentioned previously, is due April 1st, due by April 1st. We talked a little bit about assuming office, but these are also required. The Form 700 and the T trainings are also required when you assume office within 30 days of your assuming office date. This annual Form 700 training, annual Form 700 is a year look back. And so although it's due in 2025, what we're looking at is calendar year 2024. So from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024, that is the time period for this annual filing. And the last thing is if you do leave office, whenever you leave office, you also are required to file a leaving office form within 30 days of your leaving office date. The annual filing and the trainings are already available on your NetFile account. They've been there since January 1st. So you can log in now, complete them. So you don't have to wait until the last minute to do that. They're already available. They've been available. We've had a good amount of people already fill out their Form 700s and do their trainings. And so we will continue throughout the month of March to send out reminders for everyone who has not either completed their Form 700 or their annual ethics training or their annual sunshine training. If you start seeing these reminders, it means you have not completed at least one of them. And so we will continuously remind you all the way up until the due date of April 1st. Also, please note that if you assumed office between October 1st, 2024 and April 1st, 2025, and you filed an assuming office Form 700 and took your trainings, you do not need to file the annual Form 700 or take the annual ethics training or sunshine training until April 2026. So if you've already done this, your NetFile account should not have an annual in there if you are in between these dates, if you assumed office in between these dates. If it does, and you feel like something is incorrect with your NetFile account, please open a support ticket. We'll be glad to take a look, and if there's a fix that needs to be made, we'll do it. And if they're not, then we'll explain your specific situation. All right, we'll move on to the next page. And this is essentially how to file, just some real quick steps on how to log in and file and your Form 700 and take your trainings. If you want to follow along with me, please feel free to do so in a separate tab. You don't have to. It's totally okay. But in any case, you navigate to sfethics.org. On the home screen, homepage of the Ethics Commission website, there is a banner right in the middle. You can't miss it. And it'll say it's time to file your Form 700 and complete your training requirements. Click on the More Information button within that banner. It will take you to another page where you click on the Form 700 filers link. It's got a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. And then there is a button that says e-file your Form 700. Click that and you will be taken to the login page of the NetFile system. So I want to note here that paper submissions are not accepted. We have not accepted paper submissions from anyone since January of 2022, which is not that long ago, but still, it's been a few years. So please don't email the Ethics Commission with a PDF of a Form 700 that you wrote in on and scanned. We just can't accept it. It has to be done through this system. And so once you get to the NetFile account, you enter your email address and your password. If you don't know what email address is set up for your NetFile account, you can always ask us. Most of the time, it is your government email address. However, some people do have their personal email addresses. If you receive a reminder from us, it is your email address is where that reminder was sent. And also, password. If you lost your password, forgot it, it's okay. There's a lost your password link. It's highlighted on this slide right here. You click that, enter your email address, a password reset email will be sent to your email address. And from there, you can just reset your password. And as soon as you log in, you will see what's called a filer dashboard. This is essentially the home page of your NetFile account. And at the very top of the page, you're going to see your disclosure category. It's highlighted on here at the very top. It says category 1, and then there's a link that says view category information document. If you click on that link, it will actually download a PDF of the conflict of interest code around your category and tell you the definition of your category. So each department, like I said, has different categories, different definitions of categories, different requirements for various categories. So it is a good idea to take a look at your specific category because you may be disclosing things that you don't really need to. So just make sure that you read yours. Also on this homepage, you'll see a filings to complete section, and you'll see what's highlighted on the screen right now. There's essentially 3 requirements. The top one is the Form 700, FPPC 700 under the form category. The second one is the ethics training, and the third one is the sunshine training. It really is as simple as clicking create a checkbox and clicking start selected documents for each one of those. Please do them one at a time. It's always best. It doesn't matter what order you do them in, but that is essentially how you get to your either Form 700 or either one of your trainings. I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment and kind of jump out of the PowerPoint presentation and jump into a demo to walk through this, just to show everyone how to log into the account and also to we're actually going to go through a Form 700. So let me stop sharing. That's done. And I will start sharing. Hopefully this works. Kyle, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the net file? Okay, perfect. So this is a NetFile user login page that we were just talking about. Don't worry about the email address. This is a test environment, and so I'm using a test account. It's not my email address, but essentially I typed in my email address and my password. I'm just going to click login. Going to ignore that. And I see my 3 filings to complete. Form 700, which is what we're going to focus on. The trainings, as we mentioned, it's videos, quiz, sign a declaration, and you're done. So we'll look at the Form 700. I'm going to click in the Create checkbox, and then I'm going to click Start Selected Document. This is going to take me to my Form 700, my annual Form 700. Takes you to a cover page. Now, under filer information, it really should already be filled out for you. The Ethics Commission is your filing officer, and so for ethics filers, we always fill this stuff out for you because your department filing liaison is required to give us your business mailing address and your business phone number, and obviously first name and last name. So these are things that you really should not have to touch. It's just going to show filer information right here. You should see this green checkbox. Office, agency, or court. This is actually going to show your position. Again, these are positions that were provided to the Ethics Commission from your department filing liaison. So everything here should be perfectly normal. So you shouldn't have to touch that either. Jurisdiction of office, again, you should not have to touch this. You don't have to click into any of these checkboxes. It'll say County of San Francisco. That's totally fine. You're good to go. And then type of statement, nothing for anyone to touch here either. This is the annual statement. It just says it's the period it's covering is January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. That's it. So the lesson here is on your cover page, definitely read it over. And if you see anything that looks out of the ordinary, please just let the Ethics Commission know. You should not have to update any of this. But if it is something that's like incorrect or something doesn't look right, please let us know. We will work with you to get it corrected, not only on your current Form 700, but for the future as well. Okay, so after you double check your cover page and everything looks good, you could do one of two things here. You can click this next button at the bottom, or up in the kind of upper right hand corner, you can go through each schedule by clicking on them individually. We're gonna look at each schedule. So I'm just gonna click next. It's going to ask you if you need to disclose anything around stocks, bonds, investments, where ownership is less than 10%. We're just going to click yes for now so I can show everyone what this looks like. So in here, there's essentially required fields that we're going to go through examples in the slideshow after this. So I don't want to get into examples. I just want to show where required fields are. So everything with a kind of red asterisk here, you do need to enter into the form itself. So the name of the business, description, fair market value, nature of investment. That's pretty much all that is required. And so you enter, say you have 5 to enter, you enter one of them, you save the transaction. Once you save the transaction, this will essentially clear out and you can enter the second transaction. You will also see under the Save Schedule A1 transactions, the various transactions that you are saving as you go along. Okay, we move to Schedule A2. We're not going to enter anything in here. Schedule A2 is investments where investments or assets of business entities / trusts where ownership is 10% or greater. Very simple. Once again, everything with an asterisk, you just need to enter a value for. You do have to select if it's a trust or a business entity. Depending on what you select, the asterisk the required fields will show up with text boxes. Again, very simple, not too much to do here. It's kind of the same thing with sources. If you have multiple reportable sources of $10,000 or more, you can add a source, save it. You just add them one at a time. You will also see your transactions saved down here at the bottom as well. Okay, we're going to move on to Schedule B. It's all very similar. This is interest in real property. Again, we're going to go through examples momentarily. You see the required fields in here. If you need to add sources of rental income, adding multiple of them or just one, it's really easy. You just click add a source, you add your one source, save it, move on, click add source again if you need to do multiples, and your transactions will all be saved down here. Schedule C, very much the same thing. So nothing new here. There's Schedule C Part 2. This is around loans. Sorry, Schedule C Part 1 is income. Schedule C Part 2 is loans received or outstanding during the reporting period. Very much the same. Schedule D, again, very much the same, but this is income from gifts. Not much to fill out there, just a few required fields. And Schedule E, which is the last schedule, is income or gifts of travel payments, advances, or reimbursements. Again, there's some required fields. If you need to enter multiple, enter one at a time, save the transaction, and move on to the next one. There is a place to add any comments if you need to. And once you are all done, you just click this review draft and e-file button, or sorry, link, and it will prepare a draft statement for you to review. So essentially what this does is I entered nothing on here, like nothing in the schedules. So I'm going to review this draft and make sure that nothing was entered. So when you're reviewing the draft itself, it's got all the information that was there that was on your cover page. Looks great. Part 4 here is where the schedules come into play. Nothing is checked for A1, A2, B, any of the schedules. That's great because I I did not enter anything. And so none is selected. The check will automatically be there if you entered something for Schedule A1 and Schedule C. Though there will be check boxes in each of those schedules, and there will not be one in the none field. So it will just show up automatically. You don't need to check any of these boxes. And so everything looks good here. So the last thing, well, second to last thing you have to do is just click, if you're ready to e-file, you click yes, take me to the last step. This is where you e-file your Form 700. It's pretty straightforward. There's just a place where you would sign the date. It would be today's date. Your name just typed out. This is a test environment, so my name on this is Commissioner Kevin, and then your email address as well. Once you do that, you just click the e-file statement button. I'm actually not going to e-file this because it is a test environment. Actually, let me try to do it. I'm not sure if it'll work, but okay. So e-filing complete. Great. I'm going to go back to the home page, which is my home page. As you can see, filings to complete. The Form 700 is no longer there. Where'd it go? It's under your e-filing history now. So down here, it actually shows you that when it was created, when it was filed, it has been accepted. You can view it if you want just by clicking on the view link here. You also can amend it. We're going to go over amendments right after this demo. But how do you do an amendment? You just click on the amend button. It will take you back to your Form 700 and you will make amendments to whatever schedule needs to be amended. So that is just a quick demo walkthrough on how to e-file. Since you're done with the 700, you can move on to Sunshine Training or Ethics Training, either one. I will note that with both of these trainings, you do not have to complete them all in one go. So say you start taking the Sunshine Training, you're watching the video, and something comes up where you have to exit out of the video. It's perfectly okay. It will actually save your spot, like where you left off in the video. And when you come back to it, there will no longer be a checkbox next to it, but there will be an edit link right here in the edit column. and there'll also be a delete button. If you click delete, you will have to start over. So try to avoid delete. So just click edit, and it will take you right back into where you left off in the training. Okay, great. I think that is it for this page. For this demo, we're going to go back to the slideshow. Give me 1 second to stop sharing and try to start again. Okay. Okay. All right. So we looked at the filer dashboard, the home page. Now let's talk real quick about how to amend a filed Form 700. So if you realize that you made a mistake or omitted something on your Form 700, it's no big deal. These things happen. You can always file an amendment, which we were previously just looking at where the link was. Now you can file amendments on the current year's filing or any prior year's filing. You will see them all in every Form 700 that you've e-filed will be under your e-filing history on your account. Amendments can be made at any time without penalty and should be filed as soon as the discrepancy is known. I also want to make a note that it is important to amend the relevant year's filing. For example, if you're trying to amend this year's filing, just make sure you line up under your e-filing history. You click the amendment link that is next to in the same row as this year's filing, not one from 2 years ago or something like that. And another thing to note is only the amended pages will be visible, not the entire original filing. What that means is once you amend your Form 700, say that you only amend Schedule C. That's great. You submit it, the amendment will be submitted, everything's fine. But when you go to view that amendment, you're only going to see Schedule C because that's all that you amended. You're not going to see your original filing on top of that. Your original filing will still be viewable in the same place, but you will see that one will say amendment next to it and the other one will say original. All right, let's move on. So now we're just going to go over some examples of the schedules. Just things that should be disclosed, or sorry, things that are reportable or should be disclosed, and some examples of non-disclosed or non-reportable investments. And we're going to go through each schedule. I'm not going to read this word for word, but it is just a lot of the times people ask us like, hey, do I need to report individual stock that I have in Apple computers? The answer is it depends. It depends. So normally, typically, yes, that is a reportable source. However, there are variables involved, and like we were talking about disclosure categories. And so if you're a disclosure category 3, you may not have to. And so that's why it's really important to look at your disclosure categories, because you might be disclosing things that you don't have to. And over disclosing, there's nothing wrong with it, but like you won't get a penalty for over disclosing. However, we just want you to disclose the things that you are required to disclose, and it really saves you time in the long run. So if we're looking at Schedule A here, this is, again, investments where ownership is less than 10%. And this is really a financial interest in any business entity that's located in, doing business in, or planning to do business in, or has done business during the previous 2 years in your agency's jurisdiction, in which you, your spouse, or registered domestic partner had a direct, indirect, or beneficial interest totaling $2,000 or more at any time during the reporting period. again, if someone just comes to the ethics commission and says, hey, I have Apple stock, do I need to report it? That's just not enough information, because they may have $100 in Apple stock, and that doesn't meet the $2,000 criteria. So the answer, if they only had $100 in Apple stock, would be no, you don't have to report that. However, they could have more. So it really, these really get specifics. That's why we really ask everyone to open support cases, so we can work with you one-on-one. So some reportable investments include stocks, bonds, warrants, and options, sole proprietorships. Maybe you own 5% of a business. Ownership is less than 10%. That would fit under Schedule A1. Your own business or your spouse or registered domestic partner's business, and partnerships like a law firm or a family farm. Here's some examples of what you're not required to disclose. So government bonds, diversified mutual funds, bank accounts, savings accounts, cryptocurrency, annuities, shares in a credit union. These are all examples of things that you do not have to disclose on Schedule A1 or within your Form 700 at all. So just, again, this is not every example, but these are some very common examples that come up. Okay, let's take a look over at Schedule A2. Now, Schedule A2 is somewhat similar to Schedule A1, where this is investments, income, and assets of business entities or trusts where ownership interest is 10% or greater. Again, there is the $2,000 threshold, so interest has to total $2,000 or more. And also on Schedule A2, investments in real property held by the business entity or trust should be reported if your pro rata share of the investment or real property was $2,000 or more during the reporting period. We'll move to the next slide. Oh, sorry. A good example of that is if you own a business within San Francisco, like maybe you own 100% of a coffee shop in San Francisco. As long as your disclosure category as long as your business fits under the definition of your disclosure category, then you would have to report it. Where do you report that? You report it under A2. Okay, next one is Schedule B. This is interest in real property. So this is really around, definition here is real property located in your agency's jurisdiction in which you, your spouse, or domestic partner or dependent children had a direct, indirect, or beneficial interest totaling $2,000 or more during the reporting period. Interests include an ownership interest, a deed of trust, a leasehold interest, interest in real property that's held in a retirement account. Remember, this is within your jurisdiction, so within San Francisco. There is, within the jurisdiction here also means that if the property or any part of it is located within 2 miles outside the boundaries of your jurisdiction or within 2 miles of any land owned or used by the local government agency. So just keep that in mind. Now, Schedule B, we get this question all the time. Do I have to report my residence? No, you do not. So you're not required to disclose your residence, such as a home or vacation cabin, but it has to be used exclusively as a personal residence. If you're renting, for example, renting a room out, or actually renting a room out for which you claim a business deduction, it's possible that that is reportable. And if it is reportable, you're going to report the fair market value of the portion that you claimed as a tax deduction. So your residence, no, you do not report it. If you're renting rooms out of your personal residence, it's possible that you will have to report it. I suggest opening a ticket with the Ethics Commission, and we will work with you directly on to determine what part you need to report on Schedule B and how much of it, because it will come down to like square footage and all of that. Okay, perfect. Next one is Schedule C. Now this is incomes, loan, and business positions. This is around reporting the source and amount of gross income of $500 or more that you received during the reporting period. You must also report the source of income to your spouse or registered domestic partner if your community property share was $500 or more during the reporting period. Community property share is 50%. So you would report 50% of your spouse or registered domestic partner's income if it was $500 or more during the reporting period. Now, there's some exceptions to this, and we're going to go through them, but commonly, again, always check your disclosure category because you may not have to report your spouse's income either, based on that definition of your disclosure category. But some commonly reportable items are salary, wages, per diem, again, community property interest 50% in your spouse's or registered domestic partner's income, income from investment interest, commission income, rental income not required to be reported on Schedule B. Say you have a rental house that's in Colorado. You don't have to report that on Schedule B because it's not in your jurisdiction. However, you are still getting income from that, so you would report that income on Schedule C. Payments on loans you've made to others, these are just common items that you would report, common reportable items. We're going to move on to the next slide and talk about what you're not required to report. So salary, reimbursement for expenses or per diem, Social Security, disability, or other similar benefits payments received by you or your spouse or registered domestic partner from federal, state, or local government agency. Yours, like my salary, we'll just use me as an example. It comes from the city and county of San Francisco. That's a local government agency. I do not have to report that on my Form 700. So if your salary is from a federal, state, or local government agency, or your spouse's or registered domestic partner's salary is from a federal, state, or local government agency, you do not have to report it. Also, you do not have to report stock dividends and income from the sale of stock unless the source can be identified, and income from a PERS retirement account. As these are just examples, again, not all examples, but some common examples. I'm going to move on to Schedule D, which is gifts. And the definition of a gift is anything of value for which you have not provided equal or greater consideration to the donor. The gift is reportable if its fair market value is $50 or more. In addition, multiple gifts totaling $50 or more received during the reporting period from a single source must be reported. Say I received a gift from the same person 3 times and $20 was the value for each of those gifts. The total of that is $60. It's more than $50. It's reportable. And it is the acceptance of the gift, not the ultimate use to which it is put, that imposes your reporting obligation. If you accept the gift, you report it. Like not, oh, but I accepted it but didn't use it. Doesn't matter. You accepted it. So some commonly reportable gifts are like tickets to sporting or entertainment events, tickets to amusement parks, food, beverages, and accommodations, including those provided in direct connection with your attendance at a convention, conference, social event, rebates or discounts not made in the regular course of business to members of the public without regard to official status. Say I get a discount because I have a friend that works at a store and he gives the discount to me. that's a gift because he's not offering that discount to members of the public as well. Okay, we'll move on to what's not required to be disclosed. So gifts that were not used and that within 30 days after receipt were either returned to the donor or delivered to a charitable organization or government agency without being claimed as a charitable contribution for tax purposes, you don't have to report that. So say you accepted a gift, but 5 days after you accept it, within the 30 days, you decide to return it. That is perfectly okay. You do not have to report that. Or say you decide to donate it to charity. Great. You don't have to report it, but you also cannot claim the charitable contribution on your taxes if you do that. Any gift from your spouse, registered domestic partner, child, parent, grandparent, grandchild, brother, etc., immediate family, you do not have to report. Gifts of similar value exchanged between you and an individual other than a lobbyist registered to lobby your agency on holidays, birthdays, or similar occasions. I give, for example, Kyle a gift for his birthday, and it's $50. Does he have to report that? Not if we're exchanging like birthday gifts. If he gives me a $50-ish gift on my birthday, so they have to, you have to reciprocate essentially. Gifts of informational material provided to assist you in the performance of your official duties, for example, books, pamphlets, periodicals, etc. Personalized plaques or trophies with an individual value of less than $250, you do not have to report. And gifts given by an individual who is not a lobbyist, where it is clear the gift was made because of an existing personal or business relationship unrelated to your official position. It's another example of a gift that you do not have to disclose. Okay, we will move on to Schedule E. Schedule E is just about travel payments, advances, and reimbursements. So this is reportable travel payments on Schedule E include advances and reimbursements for travel and related expenses, including lodging and meals. Here's a list of examples of what you're not required to disclose. Just read the top one: travel payments received from any state, local, or federal government agency for which you provided services equal or greater in value than the payments received, such as reimbursement for travel on agency business from your government agency employer. So an example is I go to a conference for work. My department pays for it. I'm going to speak at that conference. Well, I'm not going to speak at that conference, but I'm going to do some work at that conference with other maybe ethics commission agencies throughout the state or other states. I'm actually doing my job in the course of these duties, and my department, the government agency, is paying for that, so I wouldn't have to report that. All right, and I think that is it for the schedules and the examples. So now we're just going to talk really quick about failure to file or filing late, and a little bit about enforcement. Give me 1 second. I have some notes on this. Okay, so what if you don't file at all or file late? Now, I know everyone here is not going to do that, but we do need to talk about it. So there is no provision in the law to extend Form 700 or your training deadlines. So there's no provision that we can provide extensions. So being sick, being on sabbatical, vacation, or maybe you just plain forgot to do it, that's it's not an exception to not file. We cannot give you an extension. You have from January 1st all the way to April 1st to complete your trainings and your Form 700, plenty of time. So if you come to us and ask for an extension, we're going to say, unfortunately, we cannot provide you an extension. April 1st is the deadline. If you do file late, there are potential late fees of up to $10 per day or $100, whichever is greater. Non-filers may be subject to disciplinary and or enforcement actions with potential fines of up to $5,000 per violation or 3 times the cumulative amount not properly reported. In addition, members of boards and commissions who fail to file their required filings in a timely manner are disqualified from all participation and voting on matters listed in their board and commission meeting agendas. So if this group specifically, if you don't file and you have a commission meeting on April 3rd, you're not going to be allowed to participate in it. So please, just the lesson here is please just file and file on time. And, the Ethics Commission does have an enforcement team. You will more than likely be hearing from them if you're either filing late or not filing at all. But the engagement and compliance team, that's me and Kyle here today. We don't want you to meet our enforcement team. So please use us as resources. Open tickets with us if you have questions. If you get stuck on anything, just let us know. We are glad to help. This is what we're here for. So please just let us know. There is a resource slide here. The Ethics Commission, Kyle's going to add the links to the chat, but there is a website for filers on the Ethics Commission website, and also the support portal. As I've been saying multiple times throughout this information session, please open tickets. We're here to help. We don't want you to be a non-filer or file late. We just want to make sure everything goes smoothly for you. So we will give you that one-on-one attention that if you need it, great. If you just have a couple of small questions, great too. Like just ask. We're here to help. That is it for the slides and the presentation. So thank you everyone for joining. Don't jump off just yet. We are going to go through a small Q&A session. But yeah, thank you for this. It's great to see people join in, and I was happy to see that a couple of questions did come through prior to the event. Again, if you didn't get your questions done, sent in before the information session, it's totally okay. Just open a support ticket. We're happy to help. So I'm going to stop sharing really quick. I'm going to stop recording as well. And